Hey, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So today we're going to come in a little bit earlier. So for those of you who don't know, welcome to the Boss Queen Morning Show. This is your place or your show for all things manifestation, money mindset and marketing. Yes, 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 so that you can create your queendom according to your own rules, because ladies, you already know that you are no longer available to have anything less than having it all. Okay, because remember, I believe totally that you have permission to be, do, and have granted. So today I want to share this actually whilst I'm going live to a couple of groups at the same time. So why not? So today's topic is courage, okay? Courage, and your call to answer courage. And it's been inspired by Brené Brown Netflix little documentary. So if you are tuning in at any time, obviously say hello, say good day, let me know where you're tuning in from. And of course, also feel free to share this. Feel free to hashtag or replay if you come at a later stage, and I will be sharing this too. Let's see, I think I need to change the settings here and share this. We're just going to give a couple of people an opportunity to join us. Why not? Because we love this. Well, I believe that courage is such an important topic, and I wanted to actually go through some myths which I've noted down from the actual documentary. So let me share this here, and then we are all together in the same space. All right, perfect. Okay, so now courage. You may know, so for those of you who know Brené Brown, give me an emoji. For those who love Brené Brown, give me a heart. If you've seen the documentary, then by all means let me know. If not, you should definitely check it out on Netflix. I love Brené Brown because I believe Brené Brown is definitely someone who has inspired me to become more vulnerable. And I think that this whole topic of vulnerability is so big because we struggle to really, truly, let us see for who we are and speak our truth and speak all that we think about and what we feel at this very given moment. And she says, I think that for her, the way that she defines vulnerability is, showing up with no control over the outcome, which I believe that when you do Facebook Lives, that I believe that that's kind of like what happens. I mean, you can have the topic, and I tend to have an idea or be inspired by what I see, what I feel, what's going on in my life, and I feel like that usually inspires me to create content and share with you. Now, I have no idea most of the time where it goes. I have no idea who's going to tune in and who's going to watch, and I have no idea how people are going to react. So I feel like it is a very brave space. Now, I still don't feel that I feel pretty comfortable doing that. And even though sometimes there are topics that are maybe not so easy to talk about, hey Tish, and so I feel like I want to bring more vulnerability. I want to bring more realness. I want to bring more honesty and rawness to those Boss Queen shows, whilst also getting you to think about, your own mindset, your own blueprint, your own connection to soul, but also obviously how you're showing up online, because predominantly I do help women make money online by becoming a sovereign woman. So yes, I definitely focus on the identity, the soul, the mindset, the blueprint, and the soul transmission and the activation part. But at the same time, yes, I kind of bring in some strategies. But all of this doesn't matter, because at the end of today, people, will buy you because it is the energetic response. People can relate and people can see if you're being real. People can see if you're putting on a show. And, by all means, like, I like to have fun, and so I sing and be like, yeah, welcome to the Boss Queen show. And yes, sometimes I get in preacher mode, and yes, I feel like this is, it's like, wow, it's a show, but it's also me, and depending on obviously how I feel, then that's obviously what you're going to get. Sometimes I will go into more like, oh my God, like a little bit of here, sharing my heart. And sometimes it will be like, oh my God, seriously, women, wake up to yourself. You have no time to waste. People out there waiting for you to step up, stop the excuses. So sometimes I get into preacher mode, but it's all me. It's all part of me. Like, I really choose to show up as me, and actually that's not always been very easy, and I definitely feel like there's a lot that you need to let go from here, a lot more that you need to come in here. And I find actually I'm really quirky naturally. I am really quirky, and I love to have fun, and I love to sing, and I love to be awkward, because it's who I am. I like to have play, like I like to play, so what's it for you? Like thinking about showing up to the fullest expression, showing up, being super courageous? Because again, I think that vulnerability is something that we all struggle with, because we're afraid to share parts of us where we don't know, oh, how is it going to be received? And to kind of come from a space of like, we don't fucking care anyway what people think. Well, that is all well and true, but at the same time, we are wired to have a sense of wanting to belong and to connect. So it's not like you can switch this off completely, but you can have, I guess, some boundaries around that. Okay, so my call to you today is, with all of this being said, I really want you to think about, how are you showing up more courageous in your life? Are you choosing courage over comfort? And for me, I know now I'm definitely focusing on, how can I choose courage over comfort? I feel for me, I'm going through a really beautiful, even though it feels fucking messy at times, transition right now. And I mean, even yesterday to my coach, I was like, so composed, and I said, I'm feeling all these emotions. It's like a freaking roller coaster. And then all of a sudden I had this like, okay, I had a breakdown, and I was like, oh, I know what it's like about, okay. And it's like this whole, I don't know where I belong for most of the times. I feel sometimes really lost. I actually don't know where I belong, how I fit in. And she's like, well, that's because your soul really wants to go home. And if for you, it's all about, accepting this human experience, accepting that this is your place, making Earth your home, because obviously you need to have this human life to fulfill your soul's mission. And I was like, that makes sense, because I've been moving around a lot, and sometimes I feel really lost. And even on this journey, sometimes I feel really alone. And that's why obviously, like in one of my businesses, I surround myself with this awesome community, because I feel it's so important. But I don't know if you resonate. Like, I definitely feel sometimes like I don't know where I fit in, and my soul is having a really hard time, because it's just, I don't know, because if I feel so, not alien, but that, I guess that would be the right word. So with all of this going on right now, with this massive shift, and I can identify, and I will definitely talk about the actual shift, what's happening, because I find it so interesting, and I'm hoping that it may inspire other people to kind of go, oh yes, it's okay. It's okay to honor, that old parts of you need to fall away, because that's definitely what's happening right now for me. And it's definitely beautifully messy and chaotic, but it's really gotten me to think about courage. And I'd like to think I'm a courageous person. I mean, I certainly have done some very courageous choices, but at the same time, I'm feeling like I'm being pulled back into comfort. And that's what's kind of been triggering all of this in the past, especially couple of weeks, is like, I feel like I'm just playing it safe. Like, it's like I'm just getting irritated by my own comfort. And I'm like, there's more courageous choices to be made. And that's what I feel I want to choose. And that means, yes, choosing courage over comfort means you need to go inside of yourself and go, well, how the fuck can you step outside your comfort zone? How can you show up? How can you do things that take courage? Like, what are you doing right now? Because I believe that we all get to a place where, well, life is pretty cool, life is pretty comfortable. Maybe it's not like as extraordinary as I'd like it to be, but sometimes also I like to get distracted from the main course. I like to be distracted from the actual journey, because I know that distracting is, keeping me from having to face, getting out of my comfort zone, being more courageous. But as I said yesterday, or whenever, I think it was yesterday, distractions dim your freaking light. Hello, soul being. Distractions dim your light. So in order to do that, you got to choose courage. So really think. No worries, darling. You can always come back and put the replay in here. I'll watch it later. So where can you choose courage over comfort? How can you be more courageous? Is it about having more courageous conversations, having conversations with your loved one, having conversations with, someone in your family, having conversations with maybe your potential clients, with people that perhaps been watching you, waiting for that sign to come and work with you. Maybe it's you just showing up, having courageous conversations with yourself. Maybe it's time to do to make courageous decisions and to decide what part of your identity is actually no longer serving you. Like, I had to fully honor that. I was like, yeah, sure, I don't drink alcohol anymore, and that's cool because actually it's not been serving me, the binge drinking. But then I was still binging on like food. So I was like, okay, you really just replaced one, numbing and binge behavior with another. And to kind of face that, there comes a lot of shame, there comes a lot of guilt, and there comes a lot of like kicking your own ass, going, what the hell is wrong with you? Why can't you just make better choices? And then you realize, actually, hang on, you're about to go on to the next level. Which means when you're brinking onto a new download, a new 2.0 version of yourself, where you get to, shine more light, you got to really connect in and pull in that shit. And I realized, I am going back into default programming here. Default programming for me has always been about working hard, struggling, surviving, fending for yourself, proving that you can do it, going back to default motion because you're broken and you really need to fend for yourself. You need to prove your worth to the world. And I was like, that is so not true. So courageous choices, courageous conversations, courageous, actions. What is something where you can choose today more courage over comfort? That is my thought for you. And perhaps I want to do a little bit more I want to maybe share really quickly the myths around vulnerability. And obviously they're not by me, they are by Brené Brown, just to kind of get you to think about that courage, is really the birthplace of vulnerability. So when you choose to honor vulnerability, when you choose to have those moments of, okay, I'm going to just have to say this. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how people are going to react. It's like, okay. So that's why I'm like, for me personally, that's why I'm going out onto all platforms now, because I'm like, well, actually speaking in my group is pretty safe. Like in my group, these are all people who chose to be there and they like to be, connected with me, but actually coming, on my personal page or, Instagram and just expand that means I'm putting myself out there, because there could be people who don't agree and who may have something else to say, and that's totally okay. Well, it just has to be okay, because otherwise I'm just going to keep it, in the comfort of my own comfort. Does that make sense? In the comfort of my own home, as in what feels comfortable. So now, vulnerability, what's it to you? I want to go through some myths really briefly, and then I'm going to love you and leave you to be more courageous today. So Brené says that there are actually some myths around vulnerability. Myths as in like, you think, vulnerability is the key. Well, hang on a minute. And number one is vulnerability is weakness. No. We do think that showing that, being vulnerable and being like, actually, this story, right now I'm telling myself a story and I'm feeling that because you're not responding or because you don't have time for me or because you said this, I'm running the story that. And right now I'm feeling this. And sometimes we do that, and, to show this vulnerability can be perceived as weakness, and it is risky. It is putting yourself into an emotional exposure and uncertainty. But here's what she's saying: there is no courage, without vulnerability. So if you think, she said, like, what are the things that you've achieved in your life? Where have you been the most courageous in your life? Where have you done things where you thought, actually, that was pretty courageous of me? And guess what? even in that situation, you had, you know, that emotional exposure, uncertainty, and vulnerability and a risk, and you still managed to come out of it and not go up in flame. So actually, it's not weakness, because there can be no courage without vulnerability, okay? So it's actually a strength. Second myth, I don't do vulnerable, okay? Now, there is a thing, it's like, she said it, oh, I have a little ant, you're gonna go. She says, well, here's the thing, that's really cool. Either you do vulnerability knowingly, or it does you. That's really cool, okay? So either you do vulnerability knowingly, or it does you. Because at the end of the day, you have not gotten to this stage in your life without having been vulnerable. However, and this is what I thought was really cool, she said, it's so much easier to cause pain than to feel pain, all right? So she says, please stop working your shit out on other people. Yes, I know it must suck to feel brave, okay? But we have this tendency that it's easier to cause pain than to feel pain. So instead of like being vulnerable and owning what's going on for us and owning and talking about it and taking responsibility, we sometimes take our shit out on other people, okay? So you do vulnerable, you do it, either you do it knowingly or it does you. And remember that at the end of the day, please honor it and own it, because otherwise you run the risk of taking your shit out on other people, which I thought was really cool. Number 3, the third myth around vulnerability, she says, is I can do it alone. Okay, so she said about how someone came up to her after a talk and said, oh, you know, this vulnerability thing, I'm going to try it, but I'm going to do it alone, you know? And it's like, well, actually, you cannot do it alone. Because at the end of the day, we are wired, right, to have a desire for connection. And she says that, remember, in the absence of connection, love, and belonging, there is always suffering. So you cannot do vulnerable alone. I mean, I guess you could be honest and vulnerable with yourself, but in order to truly be vulnerable, it is about putting yourself out there, you know, speaking your truth, speaking how you actually feel at the risk of being judged. And that's another thing. She says, well, guess what? The more vulnerable, oh, what's going on here? Okay, we're back. The more vulnerable you're going to be, yes, you're going to get it handed to you. Yes, people are going to have to like judge you, and that's okay. Because remember, at the man of the arena quote, remember that at the end of the day, the person who is sitting on the cheap seat, right, does not get to judge you or give you feedback, right? Because at the end of the day, it only matters that you are the man in the arena or you are another man or woman in the arena. Only take feedback from those people who are in the arena with you, who fight, who are vulnerable, who are daring greatly, who are showing up every day, who are doing the do, who are pursuing their dreams, who are pursuing their passions, who are pursuing their purpose, who are out here doing the do, getting dirty, you know, getting sweaty, you know, crying, making mistakes, getting back up, you know, adjusting their tiara and keep moving. And so it's like, well, if that is what it's about, then you can't be vulnerable alone. You cannot go it alone. It is about getting yourself out there, you know, whether it's in your friendship, in your community, in your partnership, with your family. It is. No one wants to be alone and no one wants to go it alone. We're not wired to be alone, okay? Number 4, apparently a myth is that you can engineer uncertainty and discomfort out of vulnerability. No, you cannot measure it. You cannot measure it, because again, if you could measure how vulnerable you could be, you know, without getting too hurt or something, then it wouldn't be vulnerability. Do you not get it? Vulnerability is exactly this, putting yourself out there. And yes, I share my content. And at the end of the day, like I said, I'm putting myself out there and I have no idea what's going to happen. Now, I still am pretty controlled because I know what I'm talking about, or it kind of feels like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't always, you know what I mean? And then last but not least, vulnerability is disclosure. So it's not about how many people see it, right? But I love that. It's not the amount of disclosure, but it is the amount of courage to show up and be seen when you can't control the outcome. So she was saying like tweeting everybody about the fact that you had a bikini wax is not vulnerability, you know. Sharing like this in itself, I probably is not maybe vulnerability, because it's still kind of like a disclosure. I don't know. It's really when you say, okay, I'm going to share a story. I don't know, share a story. I'm going to share something about me. Like I said, what I shared before about like I'm going through a really interesting period of time of shifting, and I'm probably going to talk more about it, but that means I'm putting myself out there. And I like to, for me, though, always come from a space of putting myself out there, sharing what goes on for me. Like I said, I'm always inspired by my own life, by what's happening for me, not to me, what happens for me, and share it. And yes, there's probably going to be more vulnerability coming through my posts, because I decided that I am still playing it safe. Like I really feel like I want to really be more vulnerable, because I believe that if I choose to be more vulnerable, regardless of how people are going to judge, and yes, it can be really daunting, but unless you have haters, you're also not really risking much. You know, when you have haters, when you have people judge you, you know, then you know you're really putting yourself out there. So for me, it's like, I know this next chapter is about really putting myself out there, big style, massively on different channels across the world. And that means, yes, I'm running the risk that people may judge and say, oh my God, she has no fucking idea what she's saying, or look at this and look at that and look what she's wearing and look at her nails or look at her hair or whatever, you know, but then so be it. So be it, because I am not here to choose comfort. I'm not here to choose mediocrity. I'm here to live an extraordinary life, and I'm here to serve my purpose. And I know my purpose is to wake women up, to help you, right? Divorce your story and marry your truth, because I do believe that too many of us are hiding behind a story, right? Hiding behind comfort, hiding behind, you know, fear. And honestly, I can no longer accept that, because we are here to live a life of joy, of freedom, of, you know, happiness, of love, and really get to obviously create life on our terms. Like I am so honestly believe that in my DNA, that you have the ability, right? You have the potential, the infinite potential. I believe that you have the inherent power. I believe that too, honestly, with every cell of my being, that you have the ability to create life on your terms. I believe that. And that's why I talk about being a queen, right? She summons soul success, right? On her own terms. Like this is about going away from struggling. This is about soul success. This is about striving, right? This is about having it on your own terms. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And that means for me, in order to really lead the way, I choose as of today to be, you know, more courageous. I choose courage over comfort. And I know this has gone on a little bit longer today, and I apologize, because I want to keep the Boss Queen show short, sharp, to the point, but maybe that's exactly just the way it meant to be. So my thought to you and my question to you is, how can you today choose courage over comfort? I would love to know from you. Make sure that we can have a conversation about courage. And if you'd like to do so, but you don't feel courageous yet to do that on here, then feel free to come into my Facebook group, Soul Boss Queen on the Rise. If you're on Instagram, go into my link, into my bio, Soul Boss Queen on the Rise. If you're on YouTube, click on the link. Obviously, Facebook, you're in here. Come over, let's have a conversation about courage, because I do believe that, what does she say? She says, you know, you are worth it. And I just say the same. So show up, be seen, answer the call of courage, because you are worth it. Thank you, Brené Brown, for being my inspiration. Whew. Because it definitely is something that's very close to my heart. As you can tell, it's making me a bit emotional. So on that note, have an amazing, blessed day. And of course, remember, you know, permission to be, do, and have it all granted. Much love.